I have a problem with this week's parkour in a sense where it's kind of inconsistent and doesn't tell you what you need to know. In the sense where if you have a run where you get really close to finishing, then right after you have a run where you don't even clear the first jump, and even if you're recording it and then you look back, there's a good chance you did roughly the same things, and you can't tell what you did differently for one run to be good and one run to be absolutely shit. And this, along with the inconsistency, just makes this one just feel bad for players and feel unfair in a way that it shouldn't. So with the way the course is designed, it should be 100% skill and doesn't feel like it should take luck, like upon first glance. But, you know, that's just not how it is. It feels like it's kind of luck. And people will spend multiple attempts, even with learning a bunch of information with people who can consistently beat it. Like I have, I've asked people who have beaten it a ton of times, and also people who have gotten their name 4 times on the recent, and I've put everything they've taught me to use, and it's still, I can't consistently clear this first jump. It, while, like, right after they tell me this, I can do it 5 times in a row. But then, the next day, doing seemingly the exact same things, it fails 10 times in a row. And it doesn't make any sense for me. And this is extra bad in a sense where this is the main way a large part of the audience of Orion Drift can actually get patterns, which are really cool and really just fun to use and equip, and the colors as well. It would be fine if it wasn't just the patterns, but you're also just locking colors, which makes sense. You got the camo pattern and fire pattern and tiger pattern, which completely makes sense. But what about the storm color and the sparkle color? Makes sense what the pattern is. A bunch of lightning bolts, a weird yellowish green, and a deep blue, and a deep bluish green color. That doesn't really scream thunder, lightning. The color is so bad with its own pattern that more people commonly use it with the fire pattern. To be fair, this is to make jokes of things like Lightning McQueen with that nice crisp red and that nice bright yellow. But still, you only really see people using this color scheme with other patterns. Okay, well, I launched away. That's fun. Again! And with all of this got off track immediately, but get off your rescue bot. The entire point of this was just to say that this weekly parkour seems way more unfair than even the first 5, which were kind of the best ones in a lot of the community's opinion, as 6 and 7 were too easy, and then this one's too difficult. Which just leaves a bunch of people with a sour taste in it, seeing how they seemingly abandoned a good design, the good designs, used them all for the first 5 weeks, and then panicked, leaving week 6, 7, and 8 to be not up to the standard that the first 5 created. Which I don't know, it makes it seem like they've lost their touch with these, even though I know they haven't. On first glance, yeah, this one you can definitely tell at first glance this one's going to be difficult, but it still seemed like it was doable. But after doing it for even 10 minutes, you can realize that this is just completely unfair and just feels wrong. A bunch of runs. Now, I'm not going to give credit where credit's due to the people that are actually able to complete it consistently, even though I feel like that this first part that they have down pat, to me, and probably a lot of people, if you probably ask them, kind of feels like luck. Which, when you're making something that should be skill, you don't want the players to feel like it's luck. I may not be a game designer, but I've basically played video games my whole life so far, and they're kind of like my passion. I love them, and just through playing a bunch of different games, I've made some opinions. Not like insane opinions, but just opinions on how a game should feel. Like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. It should feel like the gameplay should feel. Whoa, no. The gameplay should feel smooth. It should feel fun. Gameplay should be a game creator's first priority above things like story and also difficulty. Unless you're making a rage game, which then it's difficulty, then gameplay. Because the entire point of a rage game is to make it hard. This feels like they're trying to make a rage game that seems like a regular game as a weekly parkour course. Which for the first 5, like I said, gained a reputation of being good. 6 and 7 kind of broke it, making it too easy. And then week 8 here seemingly is making it too difficult. I hope in a few days, as is Sunday as of recording this, that they do fix this with week 9, and that it feels like the first 5, where it feels fair to play. But it isn't easy. Because, again, a lot of the more experienced players had a problem with the last weeks, thanks to just being too, and, well, week 6 and 7, saying that they're too easy. With this one, even the pros who were complaining about the last couple weeks being too easy, which a lot of new players are still saying were difficult, are saying this is the hardest one and is insanely difficult. Now, that might have just been on first impressions, and as soon as they actually figured out how to complete the course, those same pros might have changed their opinion and thought it would be pretty easy after they learned how to do it and actually were able to do it. Still doesn't change the fact that all the newer players think that this is by far the hardest, even if they've been a day 1 player and have not really touched driftball at all and only have done parkour and parkour lobbies. And they've played every single one of the weeklies. They might still think that this is by far the hardest. Which, I'm just going over the same things. But there's not a lot else to talk about other than that a lot of people complain about this one being too difficult while the last ones are too easy. I think they wanted... my theory is why week 6 and 7 were insanely easy, is that they wanted more people to get access to patterns. They were tired of seeing so many people without patterns that they work really hard on. So they wanted to make they want to make ones that are easier so people can get it. They made it a little too easy, and then in the backlash of making week 6 and 7 too easy, they made week 8 obscenely difficult. Which then they also got backlash for making it too difficult. So I just hope that when they make week 9, they can find their sweet spot, make it that they were looking for with week 6. Dang it. But couldn't get, attempted again in week 7, couldn't get, and then attempted for one last time in week 8 here. And believe it or not, they failed on finding a good balance for experienced players to be happy with with both experienced players and newer players being happy with the difficulty. Which, I may not be a game creator, game designer, and all that stuff, but just based off the sound of it, seems like it would be difficult to balance, making it easy enough for new players while making it difficult enough for experienced players. Finding that middle ground is a very fine line that they can only get, and they can only get to it by, well, experimenting with different difficulties of their courses. And I hope that they do eventually find this sweet spot. But I do also want the community to not send as much hate as and say as much hateful things about this course in the last couple courses, because though this may be much worse than the first 5, you gotta remember this game's not even 2 months old yet. Nearing 2 months, 25th I think it'll be 2 months old. But because of that, still relative new, and the fact it's still relatively new, makes it so that, there is still a lot they have to figure out about the skill sets of their players and what the game is capable of, though they may be the creators. And I might be running out of time thanks to my headset being low, but I'm going to try to cover the last points about why people are as upset as they are with it as these ones, because they don't want it to be too easy, because like I said near the beginning, this is the main way people get patterns, and you can't basically be giving away patterns for almost free. But they also want to make it so, but yet again, they can't make it too difficult, or else it's basically impossible. I've seen hundreds of players when doing my attempts in the weekly parkour, and I've seen like about 30 of them with the sparkle pattern. And the reason that this is the most common option for players to get patterns is a lot of the fan base are in like that 12 to like 15, 16 age range, meaning they're at school. People that aren't in that range have work, so they can't really be skipping all that, so they can't participate in things like Dev versus Drifters, as they typically take place at either 12 o'clock, like midday, aka 12 p.m., or they also can't really take place during. They also can't play during the ones that take place at night, around like 10 p.m. 10 p.m. as well. And I hope they eventually fix this, but it could just be based off where another action is located that is making it so that they're doing it when they're up at what seems like a fair time for them. But they gotta kind of keep in mind their player base and where a lot of their fans and players live. So, and again, on that same scale of like, oh, the devs are up at this time and it's a good time for them to be playing, meaning that a lot of the players who would be able to gain patterns from Dev versus Drifters are also the same people that would be able to gain patterns from specifically being given to them by a dev, from them being in the same lobby, and then the dev finding them being a kind and helpful player. Which again leaves almost the entire community to just be left with the weekly challenge, which means they want a fair but still difficult challenge. They want it to be difficult so they feel rewarded for completing it, and not just that was too easy, or that was a lucky run. But they can't have it be too difficult, or else they just won't be able to complete it in general, and the people that do complete it would flex could be able to easily flex. Luckily, I haven't ran into anyone who's that much of a douchebag to flex that they have completed it, unless it's in a joking state, like, oh wow, you can't complete this, in a obviously joking way. and I have not else to say. Not a lot else to say here, so be kind, have fun, and have a good time. That's all I have for you, and goodbye.